Richard. There you go. I was waiting for something like that to happen. No, please don't do that.
Actually, really quite unpleasant.
Yeah. It also blurs your face into one, like you haven't got any features at all, but
Which would be a blessing.
be a blessing. How are you anyway?
I'm all right. Yourself?
Good. Yeah, not too bad. Not too bad.
Welcome.
Tony Robbins.
Welcome to another episode of I Can't Clap. Doing it properly.
For anyone who is watching rather than listening, that's watching Tony Robbins last night, and the man, as good as he is, can't clap. He kind of hits his two palms together in a
Because his
weird
hands are
motion.
just so ginormous, he just can't
Well, it's like
pose
someone
them quick
holding
enough.
the tambourine he was holding, and he still thinks he's got it.
Wasn't there an actress did that at some award show and she was
Yeah.
clapping like,
Was it Nicole Kidman?
was it? I don't know.
Yeah,
I
I think
remember
so. She
seeing
did.
that happening. I mean,
Yeah. Which leads us nicely into today's topic, which is doing it properly.
what?
So let's start with clapping. I have no idea. Friday morning, long week.
Need to grow up, don't I?
Yeah.
No, never.
So we're going to cover a couple, well, mainly a bit of AI and then into data and the data layers that sit behind it. But this one's obviously coming off the back of the current Stephen Bartlett episode, which has got an AI doom-monger, an AI evangelist, and a businessman in the middle, trying to balance both. And then a post I've just seen this morning by Simon Oliver, who might actually be listening to this. He does sometimes listen. Morning, Simon. Around people seeing him as anti-AI when actually what he wants to do is do it properly, make sure it's set up properly, the security's there and everything else. And it was based off an article that said 200 companies in a room, they were all asked if any of them had banned AI, and only 3 put their hand up. And then they're asked again if anyone understood the security issues of AI, and no one put their hand up. So potentially 197 to 200 companies using AI with no controls or no understanding of kind of where their data is or what's happening in the background. And it went a bit further into kind of if you've moved ahead into kind of the world of agentic AI, where it's embedded in your systems and it's doing stuff for you, if a bad actor can push some code into that, very easy for it to then start causing havoc.
Well, there's lots of those at the moment, hasn't there?
Yeah, which I think is a little bit different to using a standalone tool and logging in, doing something, logging back out, and moving on. So it's kind of probably the right level, getting the right balance between what it is you want to achieve, what tools you're using, and how that's set up. Bearing in mind you're still seeing adverts for things that say, "Oh, this tool will kill PowerPoint," and then you use it, and what it produces is utter shite. You're years away from killing PowerPoint, and Excel and all those tools are still going to be around for quite a while. But sometimes they are quite good. And I know people who are now using even things like Synthesia, which is the one you basically upload a PDF into it, choose an avatar, and an avatar comes out and speaks the script essentially. And I know councils that are using it, excuse me, that even just doing highlights of projects up to councillors and stuff, instead of sending them a written document that they have to sit and study, they get a 30-second person who just pops up on screen and says, "This is where we're at with this project." So there are lots of different uses, and it's around getting it right. And I think I said on the last one, the AI conference I went to in London, you could have almost taken the word AI out and dropped the word cloud in. And it was the same conversations we were having 10 years ago around cloud adoption, and everyone going, "Oh, hang on a minute, we need to be secure, safe, and make sure everything's in place for that." So you can kind of see it bounce on, but it does kind of come back to everything you've talked about previously around a lot of the conferences and the things you've been to and the events where it's just AI everything. It's all over the shop with no real, should we say, idea of what it's doing.
But I think that there's areas that are plumb for using this, and I think with the security, it always comes back for me about it's the same as if you do it properly and you do it, and that's not being boring or restrictive. It's just if you set it up and get it working correctly for your organization and secure and controlled in a way that you know what's going into it, it's structured, it's accurate, it's controlled, it's secure, it's ring fenced out, and then what you then do with it on top. So you can also then make sure that is the same. So you've got the right questions, you've got accurate information coming out, you've got a secure LLM, for example. So you're not just copy pasting crap into an online tools that there's sensitive needs. There's certain things you should never ever put out, and you need that peace of mind if nothing else. But then you build this kind of loop and you build this connection and feedback. You can see where that the benefit of that I think is massive, and the opportunity is also massive, because you could see with that structure and control, you can then see where the opportunities are without having to. You still need that person to look, and still need that sense and that checking to make sure it's all right, it's all accurate, and everything's coming back up. That point of reference, you should never just blindly accept everything that comes out unless you know exactly what's going in.
Yeah.
And I think that's the thing, isn't it, as well, that's the trust element of it. If you know what's going into it and you are happy, you control that, and you can see over a period of time, not a long period of time, but you build up that trust, and it's giving you accurate outcomes, it's giving you on point answers, it's giving you useful insights, it's right, it's accurate, it's secure. You've got this all in one element, should we say? Then the benefit to that is enormous, I think.
Yeah, but there's quite a lot of work you need to do to get yourself to that point where you do kind of trust it, the answers. And my new mate Tony Robbins from last night, he did give a very basic example, but he was doing some work. He asked ChatGPT for some quotes. Basically, go off and find some of the quotes that have been said about what we do, bring them back so I can put in a nice marketing brochure. And he said one of the quotes was from Elon Musk. And he looked at it and thought, I'm sure I've never worked with him, but maybe he said something nice. And when they looked into it, ChatGPT had just made up a quote from Elon. But it's like you said, if no one was then checking that and looking at it or understood that that might be wrong, you could blatantly just push that out. And before you know it, your whole marketing says sponsored by Elon Musk, and he's never worked with you. And all of a sudden you're under attack from lawyers and everything else. And it's a odd example from what we look at, but it just shows that I still don't think the quality in a lot of the AI stuff is there yet. I think it's getting there, and I think it's better.
I agree, but I think a lot of it comes down to what you're putting in it. A lot of it will come down. It's the same that cliche, and I hate fucking cliches, but it's like how you do anything is how you do everything, or the other way around. I can't remember. It's like if you don't know what's going in it, how can you trust what's coming out the other end? If you do know what's going in it, and you've got that checkpoint to go, okay, I know what that data has gone in, I know what it should look like. There's nothing in which you build in the process to go, okay, this is what we've ingested today. We've had no rejections, no issues, and it's all validated. You come out with a checkpoint to go ping, yep, all good, everything's happy, there's no problems. You've got that baseline, a reference point. Then what if you then took that and went, okay, within our internal model, for example, we now know that what's going in it's going to be right. We know it's not referencing anything else that's not been double checked, not been checked, and we're not comfortable with, even if that's external information. So if you're referencing, I don't know, stock market or something else to cross reference something, as long as you've built the control around that, you're not just going up willy nilly, pulling everything in and smashing it alongside your data and then going, we're all good. It's telling me that we're on par to make £20 million next week. And you're like, well, how? It's that checkpoint, isn't it? And then that's kind of like, well, okay, and you haven't just slammed all your sensitive information out onto the internet. And it's that if you and that's the bit that I think is missing. That's the checkpoint. That's the kind of the okay, we are 100% sure that this is really good, but we're now completely happy with what we're getting out the other end. And then it'll just keep building, won't it? It'll keep learning and building and working it out. And I think it's just that bit. I think with all these other tools that are going, oh, we've got this AI agent that can come in and do this and do that and do the other without. All you have to do is do this, and you just ask it a question. And you're like, well, I saw someone talk about this the other day, and they were saying it will play back to you pretty much what you're saying to it. So it was an example about actually at work. It was a mythical. It was mythical. It was made up. It wasn't in real life. But he was saying about how he created this, saying, "Oh, my team is this, and my team is that, and what should I do?" And they're like, "Well, maybe try this." And they go, "Well, I'm not quite sure what." And it basically ended up playing back to them that you could attack them all. And you go,
No,
but the way that, but that's just that shows you what you put in and what questions you ask. It will play that back to you exactly, unless you ask for it to be completely balanced, completely impartial. Check the laws. Check, am I being unreasonable? You put all these point checks in there. You won't end up with it telling you, oh yeah, just go and fucking sack them, all idiots. But that's the curation of the answer. you're curating that answer by what you're putting in and by what questions you're asking. But you have to have that. You have to find that balance.
And there was I'd read an article the other day actually talking a little bit around this and moving the focus away from using uh, the ChatGPT type, which is obviously the large language model, and moving to a small language model, and then having kind of like tight control over what the small bit relates to, so that you're building specialist knowledge into a system that can give you the specialist answers rather than the generic taken from everywhere. And as you say, plays back a little bit what you want to know. They're rolling back the whole sycophant.
Show me how I clap like Tony Robbins. This is how I clap now, right? But now show me how to clap like Tony. Well, you have to do this. And it'll do it. That's
And
what
it'll
it'll
do
tell you
it.
how to do it.
And it's perfect. So yeah, but it's and then the way it's a little bit like the chat. Sorry, the GP
EPP.
can't say it. GPTs that you can build where you can actually take them and go, no, this is how we answer this type of question. This is what you base your
You
information on.
impart the knowledge and you give
Yeah,
it knowledge base. You give it information to say, you are this, use this as reference point, give me a structured answer, but also consider it. What are the downsides? What is the counter argument to this? And it will go away and it will give you this type of information and it allows you to then make a decision. That's that not you're not just going, tell me how to do this. Great, perfect. And just taking it as carte blanche because you've not qualified what getting its information from. If you know where it's getting it from, then you're a lot more comfortable.
and that's true of everything we've talked about previously, when we're talking about your dashboards within your business. It's like if you don't know where the numbers are coming from that make the dashboard up, or how you're getting to that point, then what you're looking at is useless effectively, because you can't have that level of trust. Where if you actually do the work and sit down and go, okay, what is the outcome we want to achieve? Therefore, how is that derived? Where does that come from? How do we make that? How do we get to that?
What does that number mean? What does
Yeah.
that expression mean?
And then what does that mean for the business? What do we need to do, and how do we see that number change positively? That's a big. It's quite often the bigger piece of work than the actual technical build of what it is they want.
In times, any tool or any so that you can apply this to anything, is any tool or any dashboard, it's only ever as good as the people using it and the questions asked of it. And this is the case with anything. It's the input, and the input has to come and has to be known, qualified, validated, completely controlled, and then But I think that's maybe perceived that well, then you're doing away with the whole concept of AI, then, aren't you? Well, no, because you're asking it to accelerate a process of learning, and then as long as you have that model control, whatever you else, it will then start to learn from what you're asking. It will learn from the general questions and suggestions, but you're completely comfortable with what you're getting back out because you know what's going into it.
Even like I think the guy who was on that Stephen Bartlett chat, is his company called Reptil or something like that, or
Yeah, Repla,
something like that. But
Reptile.
effectively, yeah, you go on it, you stick your details in, and say, build me an app that does this, 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 and this, and that might be very good, but I'm still sat there going, but if I built an app, the first thing I want is someone to tell me that it's 100% secure and no one can hack it. It's like, who's doing? Is that another AI that's going to come along and say, I've checked what they've done and I'm happy with it based on their assumptions
Mm.
around that? So you probably could build yourself a little app for your own personal use, but I'm dubious that you could build something that you could expand out massively and commercialize without then, at the moment, still having a human element that comes in and says, here's everything you would need to think of from a security aspect or what that looks like.
But also, where does the whole IP bit come in? As if you can replicate something, the whole IP, unless you specifically change something to make it unique. If you went on and said to Repler or another whatever, create me the code to create this particular app, I did exactly the same. We both went forward to it. Maybe you got a conflict there of like if it's exactly the same, where does that fall? I mean, I don't know. Well, it's an interesting point, though, isn't it? Because it's like, well, where does that actually all fall within this process? I'm sure if you just trademarked it, named it something, and tweaked something, then you probably could. But then you go, well, how can you say that when I've got exactly the same thing? I did it exactly the same time, but exactly the same route. Then you're like, well, it's a bit of a murky. I'm sure some IP expert will.
I'm kind of thinking you'd go on and go, I currently use Monday.com. It does this, 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 and this. Can you rebuild it for me? Yeah. Away you go. And I've now got my
Well,
own mini.
the example I saw, I haven't listened to the whole episode, but when he was saying there was one guy, an entrepreneur, was working. I don't know where he was going, but he was working. He was going around asking people what they were working on. He then went away, put it into Replit. He then created it. He went back to them and said, "I built it. Do you want to buy it off me?" And someone said, "Well, that's corporate theft." And it's like, "Well, why is it?" Because he's just built it for them and he's selling it. And you're like, this is where for me it gets a little bit. That's where it needs to be. There's an unknown element to that,
But
isn't
then the
there?
basis of kind of being an entrepreneur is that you go ask a load of people what their problems are. They all tell you.
Yeah,
You go, I'll solve it for you. I've got a way of fixing it. So, but
I
yeah,
don't think. I think that's always been around. I think I thought that was a bit of a baseless argument, really, because you can see why people would go corporate theft, and maybe, but it's where you get that
yeah.
friction. But I don't think that's, thinking about it, that's never really been any different. Someone invents one car, someone else and goes, "Oh, look, it's exactly the same, just a different color front."
Or you go and hire the person that built it for them, and you
Yeah,
buy them for you, and suddenly yours looks very similar to what they did.
that's a bit strange, isn't it?
Yeah, but I still think, yeah, there's definitely still something there that I think I like the way things are going. I like how easy a lot of these tools make it for me to do things that I couldn't do on scale as a single person. I mean, I can build websites in minutes rather than kind of hours.
Are they any good though?
Well, who knows? The amount of people moaning about AI on LinkedIn and kind of going, I can't believe you use AI to write your posts. It's like, well, I can because I do for nearly all of them, but I don't just go onto AI and go, I'd like a post about this topic and then let it create it for me. I go in and go, I want to talk about this, 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 and this. I want to make these 3 points, but can you write it in a way that's succinct and kind of gets the message over? And then
Do you then change it or tweak it?
I'll take the M dashes out because people moan about them constantly. I normally end up adding bits in as opposed to tweaking what it's written because it will have missed part of the point I was trying to make or something.
Easily
So
done. I mean, it's not that intelligent to pick
no,
up on what you're
I might
thinking, is it?
I'll probably take what it's got, but then add sentences or words or bits into it just
Do
to
you
tweak it.
use it, AI, to tell you how many cornflakes to have in the morning?
No, I use my eyes and the size of the bowl.
In
And
your
when the
belly?
bowl is level flat, I'm like,
Bucket, you mean?
that's enough cornflakes. That's enough. I did once weigh them to see how many I was putting into a bowl. I wasn't actually that bothered. It wasn't that many calories. But hey, it's better than some cereals.
You got history with portion control, haven't you? With pint chips for two that you got to yourself.
Oh, they're never for two, are they? Everyone knows what's written on the box is a lie. That's bad
It's just
data.
a guideline. It is bad
Bad data.
information. You ingested that using your intelligence and went, it's wrong.
It's wrong. Yeah. Two people could not have eaten that meal and been satisfied at the end of it. Stick that in AI.
Stick that in your eye.
Yeah. But also, joking aside, I also think there's an element of also finding the right tool for the right job within a lot of this as well. So Simon's talking councils, and again, in 90% of councils I've spoken to, the answer's Copilot, and then let's work out what the question is we're trying to resolve.
It's
And what the
always
answer
the case,
is.
though, isn't it? It's always the wrong way
Yeah,
around.
and actually, as I said, I've been in some that use in Synthesia. I've started doing some work with a company called Webio, which have a small language model but built around debt and starting conversations with people who are in debt. It's a nice little tool. And what were the other one we looked at? Well, even when we were doing the meeting room notes, we looked at different ones to just the Copilot, just because there were tools at the time that were better at summarizing meeting notes than Copilot was. And it's like, let's just not use the one that everyone just goes, that's the one we need. Let's look at alternatives and look at the options and say which one is actually giving us the best results. Because ultimately, if you can train it to turn your meeting notes into more of an agenda with all the different actions spelt out, and you're quite clear in the meeting every time there is an action, you're very clear that here is an action for Richard. I want you to do this. Different Richard, I'd never take them. Then you need to look away from kind of that single model approach and go, actually, there's multiple tools. And I think previously, even when we had the iPhone, we were looking at that, and it was how we wanted people to go on the App Store and find apps to use that would help them, that would make their jobs easier. But as a council, we also had to do it in a structured way. So it was almost like go and find the tool that helps you best and here's some ideas. But when you found it, come back to us and we'll analyze it from an IT perspective. And then we'll create like a mini app store within the council that says, okay, if you want to do note taking, the big one at the time was Evernote. We've looked at Evernote. We're happy with that. You can all download Evernote if that's the one you want to use. If you want to do something else, we found this one for that. That's the one you use. So it was always kind of a yes, but conversation of, yes, you can do it, but there are things we need to do as IT to make sure we've covered ourselves from security, data access, all of that side of things. But we are trying to actively encourage you to look at new tools and to play with new tools and to have a go with them. And even if you don't want people day one doing everything with your company data or your work data, I would still be encouraging them to go out and say, just go have a play with Napkin is a good example, build you images and graphs and pictures from words. Brilliant little tool. Just go and have a play with it. Just don't put our data into it yet. Just go and grab some.
But then how do you control that?
You
How
just
can
tell
you
them.
say?
Well, you can't. You have to have an yeah.
No, what I mean is, how can you say to them, don't put our data into it, but then how do you control that? I mean, I guess there's always some element of that, isn't there? That you have to have that trust. You can't,
Yeah.
because there is no control. There is certain restrictions you can put. You can control what people can and can't do. Take off of machines
Yeah.
or networks, isn't there? So you can do that, but then I don't know
Well, I
how
think
many.
there's a level of intelligence as well into say, okay, if I took some of my, let's say downloaded my financial data from zero now, put that into a spreadsheet and then put it into Chat GPT and said, can you analyze this and give me information?
Tell me how to get to a £3 billion turnover next week, please.
I don't think that is useful to anyone in the wider world anyway. And I don't think necessarily anyone else would be able to get to that date. It's not, someone's not then Googling, how do I run a business? And ChatGPT's going, here's a guy who's doing badly. You should have a look at his account and do the exact opposite of everything he's doing.
Send it to remodel this financial statement on Tony Robbins.
Yeah. You'll notice he's booked onto 17 different courses this month. If he stopped doing that, he might actually do some work and earn
Make
some
some
money.
money.
Yeah.
But I think I would always say you should never put anything like that into ChatGPT anyway.
But
Or
where,
you,
but where's
it's
it going?
a culture. It's an approach that you should instill and go. If you don't want people to be slapping anything sensitive in internet or ChatGPT, then you should basically say you don't put anything in there unless it's an internalized model. Because anything, a company, business related, unless you are, I just think that is, unless it's a descript, you have to be mindful as to what that is and where you draw the line. Because I think that's where the difference between an internal model and an external model is going to be more beneficial. But again, you still have to be mindful. You've got to be careful. You have to be careful about what you put in it. Even if you put in a name, you put in transaction, you put in this, maybe putting bank details in there or whatever. I mean, the S has proven recently they've spent 3 or 4 weeks and they've got no fucking idea what's been taken. Not a clue. And how I don't know if you heard the story about how they got in as well. And you're thinking,
No, how did they get in that one?
I heard, right,
Go
I
on.
heard
You've heard.
it
Where's
was
that?
somebody managed to spoof a senior member of staff and ask for a password reset or something, and they managed to break through 2FA to get in.
Oh, Andy.
It was like that, something like that, and the senior IT and somebody in help didn't throw up any red flags. Yeah, and that's apparent. I don't know. It's not been made overly public, I don't think, but I think that's what I read somewhere. Somebody said that's what it is, and you think, all right, yeah, but it's like how much the social engineering aspect of this is that if you put anything into the internet that someone could potentially get hold of, even if it's the name of your business, and your transaction history, it just gives somebody a picture to go, actually, Mr. Godfrey, would you like to sign up for our marketing course? Because I know you're a bit of a sucker. It's about how to manage your cornflake consumption and clap for properly. You'd be all
Yeah,
over it, wouldn't you?
I'm
And
there.
it could be a bad actor.
And have you seen the Facebook meme that goes around? That's it's like I can't remember the exact thing. It's like a messenger chat type thing of I want to get to know you better or something. I really like you. I want to know you better. What was your mother's maiden name, your first pet's name and stuff? And it's like every password question you've ever been asked, but kind of built
And a security question.
into a chat up thing of someone
And
just trying to be interested in
what's
someone.
the first and 12th letter of your secret word, please? Oh yeah, sure. Oh, I like you. You're my
Yeah.
friend. I don't know. I'm not telling you how to behave, Mr. Dick Too, but it's entirely up to you what
Well,
you do.
luckily I am my own CIO, so
You
but
are a
I,
legend
I
in
did
your own.
I,
People will
I
go nowhere near you because you
yeah.
don't. They know the repercussions.
I haven't obviously put my transaction data in there. That was an example, but I think you have to, if you're going to do something, you have to you can't stop someone necessarily downloading something and dropping it in. You can have policies against it. You can have practices
Yeah.
against it. You can say don't do it, but ultimately someone will, and that's why I've always been of the approach. It's like yes, we will allow it, but we're going to allow it in a secure way,
Mhm.
as opposed to no, it's not happening. Because I think the no, it's not happening is when you get people who try and find every workaround going.
Yeah, and I'm not saying it's a carte blanche blanket ban. I'm just saying that there has to be
And
complete clarity over what it means if you do something like that.
even going back to when I worked at Westminster Council decades ago, back in
Isn't that the government, Westminster Council?
2002-ish, something like that. It was when the World Cup was on.
That took was Tinternet to their own.
The Tinternet was out, 2002. It was quite new still to many people, but they had blocked the BBC Sport website. Everyone in the council wanted to know what the football scores were because
Facts.
it was the Japan World Cup, so it was early morning. So the games were all kind of finished by midday. And I'm going to say most of us spent longer trying to hack our way around to get to a sports site than if you'd literally just gone, here you are. We could have looked at the scores, gone, brilliant, carried on. We'd spend half an hour going BBC Sport, Sky Sport, Yahoo Sport. What if I go to BBC Sport through the BBC News page or through the weather app and see if that's not noticed? And you spend so long trying to hack your way around it that that kind of shamed me a little bit into going, actually, you can say yes. You're then putting a level of control that says, yes, do it, but be sensible with it. Don't be on there all day. If your PC's running it more than 10 minutes, we can auto shut it down or something like that. And in a way, I always used to say this about the porn blockers we had at Peterborough Council.
We're going on a different,
We're going on
different
a
path.
different route,
We're
but
going somewhere very different here
when
now.
we put the when we put the Wi-Fi in and we built the Wi-Fi network across Peterborough, I genuinely had to stand in Cathedral Square, connected to the Wi-Fi, trying to go to as many sites as possible to make sure they were all captured and all blocked. So anyone
Did you
walking
really?
past
Was
would
that
have
your
just seen me
excuse?
sat typing. But
Is this
my
appropriate for what? Is
yeah,
this
but my
really?
argument on
Let
the
me just
corporate
check.
my argument on the corporate network was if you're the type of idiot that's going to go on that during work hours on your work PC, then you shouldn't be working there in the first place. The fact we're having to stop someone from doing it, to me, suggests that that person is a bit of an idiot in the first place. And it's kind of like, why are we keeping these people in the organization by putting these barriers in to almost inhibit their level of stupidness? You know what I mean? I want to see that they're the idiot doing it because then they're breaking policy and I can get rid of them.
Mm.
Uh, I think we've digressed.
Isn't that classed as coercion, though? Constructive
No, I've just
dismissal.
given.
You let me go onto the porn site, so that's your fault.
Well, that's the argument, isn't it? But I'm giving them free will to make a choice, and they've chosen stupidly. But I think you have to have a level of trust and everything else. And with AI, I could quite happily download information and then go into any different tool and upload it and ask it to do stuff. So I think it's about communication, being clear what you can and can't do, having some policies, but ultimately going back to kind of the yes, but we'll do it in a controlled way. And I think that same with the data that we've talked about previously, the dashboards, the reporting, the information you want in the business. Yes, we'll do it for you, but we have to do it in a controlled way that makes sure that what you're seeing is actually the right data, the right information that's giving you the right results and the right out.
And that builds that trust or lack of trust. Or you just end up spotting the idiots.
There we go. And that's us pretty much done. We're at 35 minutes. That was all right.
Right. got some other, got some more deeper, got some more deeper insights into your lifestyle.
That's what it's all about, opening up, being honest.
Really, I'm not sure we've really touched on that. We haven't gone that far in yet, have we? Where's the dog? Is the
No,
dog?
definitely,
Dog's quiet today.
we'd have to censor that episode heavily if we went too deep. Very shallow at the top, and then a
Not underneath. There's
darkness
a
underneath.
dark undercurrent.
Somebody might.
Where's your dog today, anyway?
Uh, he's all right.
Quiet.
He's been a bit odd the last couple of days. Yeah, a bit tummy upsets, but he's all right. I think he's been okay this morning so far.
Not eating too many cornflakes.
No, I don't know what he'd eaten. He'd eaten something, I think, but who knows what it was. You know what dogs are like.
Check the bin.
Eat first and then throw up afterwards. But
Did
no,
you
but
enter, did you
we do
enter
have
the bin? No, somebody else.
somebody. Yeah, I do have Peter Kay tonight to look forward to.
Oh
So
yes, of course, yeah.
off to see something almost as funny as this podcast.
I know, right? Well, doubt it. He gets all his material off of us, doesn't he?
Well, I think he chat GPT's jokes, doesn't he? Just write me an hour and a half script.
He's done a load of new material, isn't he, on this tour? I think.
So, yeah, my brother's seen him on this tour, and I don't think he said it wasn't as good as he thought it would be. But
That'd be good then. Have
that's
fun.
something to look forward to. Yeah, I'm hoping it is good though.
I'm sure it will be.
I'm sure it will. Right, mate.
Have
We
fun.
shall call it a day. I shall catch you soon.
Enjoy
And
Peter Kay.
thank you. And we'll catch up next week.
See you later.
Sure.